He's got the power, he's got the authority to assent to it.
Also in this package, some members of parliament are unhappy with the posture of the president, saying the directive infringes on the independence of the legislature.
What power does the president secretary have writing to the clerk of parliament, and not the president himself writing directly to the speaker of parliament? This paper means nothing and should be ignored by the clerk.
I'll take you live to Parliament and give you updates on the cases before the Supreme Court challenging Parliament's passage of the bill. Calls for the dualization of major highways in the country intensify after 21 people were killed on the Accra-Kumasi highway over the weekend.
My family literally blames the driver, but unfortunately the driver passed away. There's no one to be blamed here by the driver, but he also died along with several others who died.
We'll get to hear from a family member who happens to be my colleague, whose birthday is tomorrow. The victim's birthday is supposed to be tomorrow. You want to stay for details of that in sports.
African Hockey Federation dismisses South Africa's claim of a substandard hockey pitch after their withdrawal from the African Games.
And much later, the Communications Ministry and the National Communications Authority come under fire for their failure to enforce adequate standards that could have mitigated the impact of the cable damage on internet connectivity.
The NCA has slept on its job, and now we are being told that the things that other regulators have by way of policy implemented in their home country. We've sat down and now we are using this crisis to talk about these things as though they are new.
We have details of that and more here on the Midday News. I am Emefa. Apawu, this is your home of independent, fearless and credible journalism. Please do stay on. Many thanks for choosing us. Let's dig in now. And the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission, PURC, has given the Electricity Company of Ghana up to 1 week to provide a detailed incident report of power outages for the period January 1, 2024. Well, that's not all. ECG is also to provide up-to-date report on the volume of load curtailed for each power outage incident, energy not served, and the number of customers affected. Well, this is containing a fresh directive requesting ECG to respond to some of these key issues, failure upon which the PRC will impose sanctions, including a 2-year prison sentence. My colleague Elton Brobe joins me in studio with more on this. Elton, let's start with the tariff revenue allocation.
So, Emefa, according to them, they provide background on the cash waterfall mechanism, the objective of which is to ensure fair and equitable allocation of revenue accruing from electricity tariff approved by the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission. Now, the PURC goes on to say that the Commission, through its monitoring of tariff revenue allocation by ECG, has observed discrepancies in ECG's allocation of tariff revenue approved by the PURC to sector entities like the bulk generation charge, transmission service charge, and the distribution service charge. Now, among other discrepancies, ECG made zero payment to the Water River Authority from November 2023 to January 2024. In the case of the Ghana Grid Company Limited, ECG made zero payment in October and November 2023. These payments, according to them, inconsistencies are a serious threat to the financial stability of the energy sector.
And there are operational matters like billing, metering, and the likes. Let's go through them.
According to them, there is general decline in the quality of service delivery, including increasing power outages across ECG service areas, which started on January 1 up until now. There's also increase in complaints related to billing and estimated consumption of ECG postpaid customers. And there's actually charging of unapproved service connection fees by the ECG, according to the PURC.
Well, there are two key orders. Let's talk about the first one.
So the first one is for the ECG to comply with the cash waterfall mechanism and pay all tariff revenues as prescribed and allocated under the mechanism to secure the financial integrity of the sector.
And the second order?
They are asking ECG to make copies of all government directive to ECG for the purchase of fuel for power generation from August last year to date. Also, total amount of fuel ECG procured for power generation from last year August to date, together with fuel supply contracts, invoices, details of fuel quantities, cost, dates, and volumes delivered, and all pertinent details. Details of all bank accounts and investment accounts currently operated by the ECG, and monthly bank and investment statement corresponding to each account showing balance for the period August last year to date.
And the ECG is also being asked to provide some regulatory audit.
First of all is the detailed incident report of power outages for the period January 1, 2024 to date. The volume of load curtailed for each power outage incident, energy not served, and number of customers affected, segregated into various customers categories. Copies of all ECG publications informing the general public of power outages from January 1 to date. These are some of the things that they're asking the ECG to do. Also, rating and current loading of overload distribution transformers, GPS location of all overloaded distribution customers, evidence of publication of all the incidents that ECG, according to them, is facing in a time frame.
Okay, so there are some operational matters plus the time frame for compliance. Let's look at them.
So for the other one, which is the cash waterfall mechanism, ECG has from now to March 25, that's Monday, to comply. ECG shall also comply with Order 2 by the close of day of March 27th. ECG shall comply with the other orders by the close of day April 2nd, 2024. And they've also provided the mode in which the ECG must comply with these directives. Emefa.
Well, and there's a punishment for non-compliance.
They say that failure to or refuse to prepare and submit to the commission within a specified time provided by this act can be punished by law.
Okay.
Failure or refuse to answer a question relevant to a matter which is the subject of an investigation before the commission commits an offence and is liable on summary conviction to the fine not exceeding 500 penalty units, or in default of payments, the principal officer or the secretary of the public utility is liable to a term of imprisonment not exceeding 2 years. And Emefa, this is signed by the chairman of the PRC and also the executive secretary and all the commissioners working under the PRC.
And we're here to hear from the ECG on this. Elton, stay with me because there's more help I need from you. Let's now go to the Jubilee House. And the Office of the President has requested Parliament to refrain from sending the Human Sexual Rights and Ghanaian Family Values Bill, commonly referred to as the Anti-LGBTQ Bill, to President Akufo-Addo for his assent. The decision, according to the Secretary to the President, Nana Bediatu Asante, stems from the acknowledgement of two pending applications for an order of interlocutory injunction before the Supreme Court. The applications seek to prevent Parliament from sending the bill to the President and to restrain the President from signifying his assent to the bill pending the final determination of the matter. Well, we have reactions from Parliament, and I'll bring that to you, plus the views of a private legal practitioner. But first, my colleague Elton Brobe is still with me in the studio with more from the Presidency's directive. So what exactly is the President's communication to the Clerk of Parliament, Elton?
So, for this is dated the 18th of March, that's yesterday, and it says transmission of the Human Sexual Rights and Family Values Bill 2024. It has come to the attention of the office that while the President and other senior officials of the Presidency were at Peduase for a cabinet retreat on Thursday, 14th March, you attempted to submit the Human Sexual Rights and Family Values Bill 2024 to the Jubilee House for the President to signify his assent or otherwise to the bill. The office is aware of two pending applications for an order of an interlocutory injunction, both filed on 7th March at the Supreme Court, one in respect of Dr. Amanda Odway, the Speaker of Parliament, and of course Richard Delaskai, the Parliament of Ghana and Attorney General, respectively, to refrain you and Parliament from transmitting the bill to the President, and also to refrain the President from signifying his assent to the bill pending the final determination of the matter. The Attorney General has, by letter dated 18th March 2024, informed the President that he has been duly served with both applications and has advised the President not to take any step in relation to the bill until the matters raised by the suits are determined by the Supreme Court. It is the understanding of the office that both applications have been duly served on Parliament. Therefore, it will be improper for you to transmit the bill to the President, and equally improper for the office to receive the bill until the Supreme Court determine the matter raised in the suit. Indeed, it is settled law that during the pendency of an interlocutory injunction application, the status quo ought to be preserved, and no action should be taken that will result in prejudicing the the matter that is being sought at the Supreme Court. In these circumstances, you are kindly requested to cease and desist from transmitting the bill to the president until the matter before the Supreme Court are resolved. And this is signed by Nana Bediatu as the Secretary to the President.
Okay, so it was expected that this particular bill would have been sent to the presidency by now. Do we know where the bill is now? Is it at the presidency or still in Parliament?
So my check suggests that in fact, the clerk attempted to serve the president at Jubilee House, but officers at the office of president refused to take the bill that had come from Parliament, and so the bill was returned back to the clerk's office.
Okay, we'll take reactions to this, but let's talk about the status of cases before the Supreme Court challenging, passage of some bills by Parliament.
My information is that the Attorney General is here to respond to the to write officially in terms of his response to this matter, and for that reason, the court is just to take any movement on this matter. Okay,
Elton Broby there is our Presidential Affairs correspondent. He will be on the pulse shortly at 3 p.m. with more on this. But let me bring in my colleague, Parliamentary Affairs correspondent Kweku Asante. Well, Kweku, we are learning some MPs are unhappy, expectedly, with the posture of the president. Let's talk about what they've been telling you.
Well, in fact, the NDC MPs believe that the presidency are overreaching and that they cannot stop Parliament in the performance of its lawful activities. Haruna Idrisu, a former minority leader, furious, addressing journalists just a while ago, says the presidency is simply overreaching and Nana Bediatu did not have any authority to write to the clerk to Parliament in the manner he did.
But I'm unable to sleep. And I'm unable to sleep because this is a monumental threat to Ghana's democracy and a monumental threat to Parliament as an institution. By Article 93, we are clothed with legislative authority and legislative mandate. This letter only reflects President Nana Addo Dankwa's quest of predominance over other organs of state. That is unacceptable, and that must be fought by all persons who love democracy and who cherish the principles and values of the 1992 Constitution. The framers of our Constitution endowed Ghana with separation of powers, the executive, the legislature, the judiciary, division of powers. It endowed us that Parliament shall be responsible for law making. President Nana Addo Dankwa, first of all, politically, what power does the President Secretary have writing to the Clerk of Parliament and not the President himself?
Well, Kweku, we also know that he's been speaking about the case that's pending before the court. What exactly is his concern?
Well, Haruna Idrisu says no arm of government, neither the executive nor the judiciary, can injunct Parliament from the lawful performance of its activities. He also argues that the injunctions that are being sought at the court and the applications that are currently before the Supreme Court are ill-conceived because the bill has not become law yet, and so the persons who have gone to the Supreme Court cannot seek to question the legality of those bills.
Yes, there is a matter before court, but I'm also a trained lawyer. An attempt to seek an injunction is not the same thing as an injunction. An attempt. I'm seeking an injunction does not operate the same way as an injunction have been so granted by the court, even if it is an interlocutory injunction. But more importantly, Parliament cannot be enjoined not to perform its lawful function as the legislature of Ghana, clothed under Article 93, responsible for legislation.
That's former minority leader Haruna Idrisu there interacting with the media in reaction to that letter from the presidency to the clerk of parliament to desist from bringing the anti-gay bill to the president's table. But private legal practitioner Kweku Pencil says the president may not be wrong in demanding the matter be resolved by the Supreme Court before he will state his position.
If the president refuses to assent to it, Parliament may have authority or have the power under the Constitution by a majority vote to override the president's refusal to assent to the bill. Now, what has happened in this situation is that the president has given a reason for not assenting to the bill, namely the fact that the matter is before the Supreme Court, and in the opinion of the president or his advisors, it would be well if everybody waited for the Supreme Court to declare its position on the bill so that the president may have his way very clear. I think it makes a lot of sense. I'm talking about political sense. A lot of the problems that people have with the position that the president has taken is the fact that he has not been consistent in upholding that kind of position. In other words, there have been times in the past that bills were bills had been passed and being challenged in the Supreme Court, that the president, in his wisdom and constitutional power and authority, has gone ahead and assented to it. I just want to put it this way. It's a politically convenient excuse for the president to give to everybody the fact that because the matter is before the Supreme Court, we may as well await the Supreme Court decision. But for practical purposes, I mean, it is not an inevitable position that the president is entitled to hold. He's got the power, he's got the authority to assent to it.
That's a legal practitioner, Kweku Pencil, there, taking us away from issues regarding the Jubilee House and Parliament. But now the Communications Ministry and the National Communications Authority have come under intense criticism for their inability to enforce standards that could have lessened the impact of cable damage on internet connectivity. The incident has led to widespread frustration to access the internet. Now, the Communications Ministry has attributed the disruptions to outages on multiple submarine fiber optic cables, with some down and others operating at limited capacity. Experts say restoring connectivity to full capacity will take 5 weeks. Meanwhile, Sector Minister Eslows explains efforts made at resolving the issue.
All mobile network operators and internet service providers will be required to establish connectivity with other submarine cable providers that are not present in Ghana, like AT did. All internet service providers should be obliged to connect additional undersea cables, satellite options, and terrestrial links through neighboring countries. Starlink is in the process of being licensed, and other operators are being encouraged to land in Ghana. The NCA did not have a framework for licensing satellites, but the authority has in the last year concluded benchmarking and learning from other jurisdictions where this has been implemented. This framework will provide the policies and rules relating to the application for frequency authorizations for satellite services in Ghana. Remind us all that the fee charged by the satellites, low Earth orbit satellite operators like Starlink for hardware and services show that they will cater for high-end value subscribers because they are expensive.
But Deputy Ranking Member on Parliament's Communications Committee, Sam George, argues that if only the Communications Ministry and the NCA had proper oversight and ensured adequate standards by operators, it could have mitigated the crisis. He spoke on PM Express last night.
The point we must be looking at here, why I say it's a failure of the regulator, is that we shouldn't now be having a conversation of local caches or data exchanges in Ghana. This is something other regulators have worked on as proactive regulators. The NCA has slept on its job, and now we are being told that the things that other regulators have by way of policy implemented in their home countries, making sure that service providers like Facebook, like Twitter, like Netflix, like Amazon have local caches, which first and foremost will even make it cheaper for data for customers when you're using your data to stream, because it's streaming locally vis-a-vis the traffic and the bandwidth that's needed. We've sat down and now we are using this crisis to talk about these things as though they are new policy initiatives that we didn't know we should have implemented. Take it from me. In 5 weeks' time, after the operators have solved their problem, the regulator will go back to sleep.
On the same show, we had the CEO of the Ghana Telecommunications Chamber, and they said this incident pushes them to explore better alternatives to protect their infrastructure.
I think that from a policy point of view, we should be pushing for a lot more of these cables coming into town, because it's interesting that if you take the distances apart of all those four cables, a total of 160 kilometers, but all of the four have been impacted. So it is just told us that, we are not as resilient with fiber as we thought. So the numbers, it's going to be a numbers game.
Dr. Kenneth Ashigbe, CEO of the Ghana Telecommunications Chamber. It's time for our filth exhibition, and one gets into the Osu Alata community. The first sight that greets you is a tower of rubbish situated in the center of the town. That is where the community unloads its daily waste. With no container to collect it, the situation poses a danger to their health and tourist prospects. Mami Sinyamiche Thompson has a maiden edition of our series Filth Exhibition.
Osu Alata, a coastal community in the Greater Accra region. It boasts of a rich scenic beauty. With its close proximity to the Osu Castle, it has long been a magnet for tourists seeking a glimpse into Ghana's rich history. However, within the beauty lies a pressing issue that tarnishes the community's charm: the heap of rubbish.
This is how they take care of the rubbish. This is how. They normally dump it here. They are using this castle as a tourist center. And when the visitors came and they see this rubbish around, let me say, it's not good for the castle.
Every community, the villagers at the water side, they shit at the water.
Even Ali Mohammed, who was just moved into the neighborhood from Cameroon, is very upset. He wonders why leadership has neglected its responsibility to keep the city clean.
Well, they have Congress people, they have statements, they have people that work for the government that are around here. I think these people should be more responsible.
But the critical question on the minds of residents is, when will these measures be implemented? Until then, Osu Alata will continue to drown in filth.
And that's our filth exhibition campaign. And Mami Sinyamiche Thompson brought us the maiden edition, taking us on a quick break here on the Midday News, live on Joy 99.7 FM in Accra and Kumasi, on Love 99.5 FM, made possible by Petrosol, your clean fuel in full quantity. Petrosol is always a delightful experience. Also brought to you by Duraplus Ghana Limited, producers of quality PVC and HDP pipes and water tank. We are the only water storage tank with a level indicator, and where Duraplus goes, water always flows. We return from the break with spores, and calls for the dualization of major highways in the country intensify after 21 people were killed on the Accra-Kumasi highway. We'll get to hear from a family member.
My family literally blames the driver, but unfortunately the driver passed away. There's no one to be blamed here but the driver, but he also died along with several others who died.
When budgets are tight and money difficult to come by, you want to be sure you get the best value for your money. These are not times to be spending money fixing expensive engine problems because of cheap fuel and lubricants. Drive to a Petrosol station today and buy your quality fuel and lubricants, and rest assured of fuel that lasts long and lubricants that prevent expensive engine problems. Hear the sound. Petrosol, clean fuel in full quantity.
Dive into a new era of news consumption with myjoyonline.com, your go-to destination for cutting-edge journalism, giving you the most credible stories from business to politics and from sports to entertainment. myjoyonline.com introduces an upgraded news website meticulously designed to empower you with an enriched browsing experience like never before. Experience the future of news browsing with myjoyonline.com.
Time for sports. Mubarak is here with the very latest.
Yes, so Emefa, yesterday, South Africa announced they will not participate in both the men's and women's hockey events at African Games based on recommendations and guidelines by the International Hockey Federation. According to them, the Theodosia Oku hockey pitch is not adequately prepared to host the competition, and it poses a risk of injury to their athletes. But President of the African Hockey Federation, Ahmed Saif, disagrees.
I would like to ask any one of you, if we take over the turf 20 minutes before the first match, do you think we have time to test the field? No. But we are, from our experience, we can decide if it is dangerous or not. We're keen to save our players. Our players enjoying the matches very, very much.
Yes, Emefa. So elsewhere, Ghana is in contention to win medals on day 2 of the track and field event in the ongoing Africa Games. Benjamin Azamati, he and Barnabas Age will feature in the finals of the 100 meters event, and Mary Boachi will also compete in the women's event as well.
Thank you very much, Mubarak. And we are hoping that Ghana will get a lot more medals. And the gate remains free, right?
Yes, it's free.
Remains free.
Yes.
Okay, so you need to participate. Now, there are increasing calls for major highways across the country to be dualized in the wake of a fatal crash that resulted in the death of 21 people over the weekend. Family members, safety experts, and the National Road Safety Authority are among those calling for that immediate action. Director General of the National Road Safety Authority, Engineer David Safwa-Donting, says dual carriageways for all major highways are long overdue. Maxwell Opagba has more in this report.
Road crashes continue to rob many families of their breadwinners and loved ones. This lady wants to remain anonymous. Her 32-year-old brother died in Saturday's crash on the Accra-Kumasi highway.
From Kwewu. So he came for a workshop at Bunsu, decided to see the family at Kwewu. Then on his way back to Kumasi, to a grandparents' house, that was when the incident happened. So my mom decided to pick up a car because now they couldn't find where he was. So she told me that they're on our way with my uncle to search for him. So 2 hours later, I was having on a call with someone when the call was coming through from my mom. Paused the call, picked up. And that was when she started crying. So when she started crying, I literally knew. Then she said, "Jackie, Kwekwewu."
His 33rd birthday is tomorrow. She says dual carriageways could reduce the high number of deaths on Ghana's roads.
All my siblings, everybody, he's someone you can always count on. That's the whole point. He's someone that you can always count on in times of trouble.
And you told me that tomorrow's his birthday.
Yeah, tomorrow. 33. He's 32. He died at 32. So tomorrow would have been his 33rd birthday tomorrow. My family blames the driver, but unfortunately, the driver passed away. There's no one to be blamed here by the driver, but he also died. Roads like I use the Accra to Cape Coast stretch, and it's terrible because dualization ends at Kaswa. To Winneba, Cape Coast, it's always deadly.
According to police data, close to 3,000 people died on Ghana's roads in 2021. A little over 2,000 died in 2022. More than 2,000 in 2023. Director General of the National Road Safety Authority, Engineer Safwa-Donting, says the lack of dual carriageway on most highways is partly to be blamed for the high deaths on Ghana's roads.
If this is done, trust me, issues of a head-on collision will be a thing of the past. Because it's a best practice. Across the international world everywhere, one of the best ways of eliminating completely head-on collision is to dualize your roads.
And that's Engineer Safwa-Donting there ending Maxwell Agbagba's report. And Maxwell is in the studios. You need to stay safe on the road. 21 lives over the weekend. 21. That's one too many.
This one feels very close to us.
Yes, pretty close. And to our colleague, I'm sure we'll just send our condolences to her.
Yeah. So the new force is trending on Twitter, and Cheddar, Nana Kwame Bidiakon, is actually trending on Twitter for this.
Mehuno mama tukwai makomachi mehu mahwe nkrofo kro uko Dubai omukra no na ye desert enso omukra nya epo abaho oma dredge ayade ba kwa mpese me yema kumase man ha se me dredge ama epo ebi abaha na yetimi the ship ni ade so the normal ba.
Yeah, okay, so that's Danakon Bidiakon saying that he's traveled extensively. He says when you go to a place like Dubai, it's a desert, but they've managed to dredge to get a sea there. And that one thing he wants to do for Kumasi is to dredge the ocean so that ships and others can travel, there. And Twitter, some people say what? Kumasi for Moses. Kumasi for Moses. Moses parted the Red Sea. Yes. Kumasi for Moses. Cheddar. And then some of them are also calling him Bosheba. That's what? Promise child?
And this is the height of promises in this country.
They say the Abrochia Bagana, but this one is Yedi Puaba Kumasi.
That's how we wrap up today's edition of the Midday News here on Joy 99.7 FM. There's more when you log on to myjoyonline.com. Living Word with Pastor Mensa Otabil. In him, episode